Okay, by now you should already understand what personal data is, who is the data controller, who is the data processor, and what data processing is. So probably you're asking yourself why this information is important. Well, it is important because any incompliance with the GDPR will lead to sanctions that may be very difficult to handle for the business or for you as a freelancer. The sanctions may be of financial or non-financial nature. As for the financial sanctions, any breach which is specifically important and may threat the security of personal data may qualify to the sanction as high as 10 million euro or 2% of the global turnover, and the aggregated cases will be punished by financial fines of up to 20 million euro or 4% of the global turnover. And this will be the higher amount that will be applied. So as you can see, this is a heavy sanction for a business to handle just for the in compliance with the personal data protection requirements. In terms of the non-financial sanctions, this can also be very difficult to handle because a regulator that is in charge of making sure that the personal data is sufficiently protected may order to a company or any other entity that is processing the personal data to stop processing the data or limit the processing of personal data. So what does this mean for a business? It means it can be the end of the business within just a few weeks or a few months. If you are a commerce company or you are providing software solutions to retail customers and you are not allowed to process their personal data, you are not allowed to collect the payments, you are not allowed to provide the actual service, the product that you have in your offer. So it means you cannot earn money as a business. That's why the limitation that can be imposed by the regulator in that regard can be very heavy to handle for your business. Also, in some countries, there is a possibility for the local regulators to introduce the criminal sanctions for the incompliance or for the lack of cooperation in terms of administrative procedure with the regulator. It means that in certain countries, you could even risk going to jail for breaching the personal data protection. That is why it is really important for you to understand the details of this regulation to the extent that you're applying it in your business. So when you are looking at the responsibility and the liability for breaching the regulation, it is also important for you to understand that there will be two main types of this kind of liability. This will be your primary liability as the data controller or the data processor. So wherever you are responsible for organizing the proper data processing and having all the consents and cooperating with the regulator wherever it is required by the GDPR or the local laws, you will be the entity that is taking the full responsibility and liability for the proper or improper handling of the personal data and the requirements that are attached to it. Also, if you are cooperating with another entity, you will be held liable in certain cases. This means you will enter the joint liability. So if you are a data processor that is cooperating with the data controller, so you are providing some technical services to data controller, you will be responsible for any damages caused to the individuals to the extent you are responsible for the proper handling of the data. Whenever a natural person goes to court and they claim that they suffered damages for the infringement of their personal data, the civil court will examine the extent of duties, responsibilities, and liability of all the entities and people that were responsible for the proper handling of the data. So if you are a data controller, you will be responsible for the full damage caused this individual. However, in cases where your data processor did not behave properly and they contributed to the data breach, or they did not have the proper documentation that is required by laws, then you will also be able to refer to them and prove that they were co-responsible for the damage. This is the joint liability of two entities. This means that the natural person will be able to ask for the reparation of damages, both the data controller and the data processor, to the extent that the data processor was responsible for the specific breach. I hope you understand the consequences of the GDPR much better right now. And for additional materials, please refer to the materials linked below. Thanks.